Today we're going to be working with attributes, constructors, getters, and setters. So essentially we're making a program that will output fractions like this. So let's just go ahead and get started. So I've already done the design, so I'm going to go ahead and skip this step. I've already started the project. As you can see here, I know that it runs. And so we're just going to start right up here in step 3. So we need to create a new class that holds a fraction, or a class to hold a fraction. The class should be in its own file. The class should have 2 attributes of top and bottom numbers, and make sure the attributes are private. Okay, so here we are in the fractions.cs file. We're going to be using system, and let's make this fraction. So to make an attribute, it's very simple. In this case, we're making it private. So we call it private int top. Private int bottom. This error is here, but we're going to go ahead and disregard it since it's just a minor error within C# or within VS Code. So we just made those 2 attributes to hold top and bottom numbers, and they're private. So I can't call them over in this class or any other class for that matter. Now to make a constructor, this can help you so you're not so redundant and you don't repeat yourself so many times, which I guess is redundant. Anyways, so let's create these 3 constructors. The first one has no parameters and just sets the numbers to 1/1. The second one takes a top number and sets the bottom as 1. So it can be 5/1, and the other one takes 2 parameters. So it can be like 3/4. So let's go ahead and do that. So when you're first making a constructor, you want to name it the same as the class that it's in, public fraction. So if this was called car, we'd want to call this car. Otherwise, we get an error message. Oops, there we go. See, there's an error. Okay, so now that it's the same, there's no error message. So we want to make a constructor that has no parameters and initializes the number as 1/1. So let's say top is equal to 1 and bottom is equal to 1. And now we can just leave this here. Now we know that top is 1 and bottom is 1, but we want it to be able to display. So let's go over here to the program class and call it. So I think this is called making an object. I'm not sure, but new fraction. And we want no parameters, so there will be nothing in these parentheses. Let's move on to the next one where the top number is set. So we'll do public fraction again. And this time, let's do something, let's call it int whole number. And set the top to equal whole number. And the bottom to equal 1. Now when we call this new fraction over here, fraction frac2 equals new fraction, here is where we put our whole number. So in this case we're going to put 5. So whole number pretty much says we're going to read what's here and give it the attribute of whole number, and then we set the top attribute to whole number, which is 5. Now let's set another one. Remember, we need to create a fraction with 2 parameters. So public fraction and it needs to have 2 numbers. Let's do something like int top and int bottom. So that way we can follow it easily. So the top attribute is equal to top, and the bottom attribute is equal to bottom. And over here, just like before, fraction frac 3 equals new fraction. And this time we're going to pass through two parameters, 3, 4. So that means the top number will be set to 3, and the bottom number will be set to 4. All right. So we just did that. Now we're going to create getters and setters. So actually, so I'm not sure if this is right, but I think these are getters and setters, or these are getters and setters. Maybe these are the constructors and these are the getters and setters. Either way, that part is done. And now we need to create methods to return the following representations. So we want to get a method called getFractionString that returns the number as, in this case, it's 3/4. So let's go ahead and do that. We're going to name it public string get fraction string, right? Because it was a string, yeah. So we're getting it and we are returning it as a string. And there's no parameters, but we are going to have some curly brackets. So it'll be string, let's call it fraction, or let's just call it text, that'll be easier. And it'll be text top over bottom. Oops, attribute top over bottom. And then return text. Okay, there we go. So now we want to print this. Otherwise, we just have numbers that are sitting here. 1/1, 5/1, 3/4. We want to print those over here. So let's do console.writeLine. And for that, this is actually a really fun thing. So when you do type WL and then hit tab, it'll just do WriteLine. Same thing for readLine. So that's a little simpler, a little easier. So we'll read frac1 dot get fraction string. Boom. And then we'll do this for each one. Of course, changing it from get frac1 to get frac2, get frac3. Okay, awesome. Now we need to do the get decimal value that returns a double, dividing the top number by the bottom number. Okay, so let's do public double get fraction decimal. Hope that's spelled right. And we'll do, let's just do return double top over double bottom. Put spaces here. Okay. Now we call it the same way. So console.wl tab frac1 dot get fraction decimal, no parameters. And let's copy and paste frac3 and then frac2. Okay, so our expected output should be 1/1 and then 1, and then it should be 5/1 and 5, and then 3/4 and 0.75. So let's go ahead and run it and see if this error clears itself up. Usually this takes the longest amount of time. And look at that, they were cleared. And it looks like our output is 1 over 1, and then 1, and 5 over 1, which is that, and 5, and 3 over 4, which is 0.75. It's awesome. Well, that is attributes, constructors, and getters and setters and methods.